Well, we've seen what can happen in these half-open central positions when the possessor of the advanced pawn is able to take energetic action, is able to develop freely, is able to get the attack going against the enemy position. And now we're going to see the other side of the coin. And I've chosen a really excellent game here, one of the old classics, between Borislav Ivkov playing white and Viktor Korchnoi playing with black. And this comes from Vikensay all the way back in 1968. And we don't reach the half-open central position for a little while, as the opening is the Queen's Indian defence. Basically, this is one of black's most reliable defences to the Queen's pawn. Black is focusing on simple development and control of the e4 square to furnish him with counterplay. And g3 is one of the main lines. This is common today as it was back then. Bishop b7, I suppose these days a lot of black players would prefer the active bishop a6. I mean, that's one development in theory that has just come about over the years. Bishop a6 has become the main line, you could say. But bishop b7, there's nothing wrong with it. It's very, very solid, and both sides just get their pieces out now. Black is not being challenged yet on the e4 square, so he feels quite free in just developing his pieces. Knight comes out to c3, and black puts his knight in on e4. All very common. Black has slightly less space. Black seeks exchanges. Queen comes to c2. White takes on c3, drawing the white queen to a slightly exposed square. Excuse me. And now the normal move for black here is just to go bishop f6. But Korchnoi employs a less common line, which was popular at that time. Queen to c8. And I'm not totally sure why that move isn't played very much today, because it seems to be okay. Black puts his queen on a funny square, but it does protect the bishop, and it also facilitates central advances such as d5 and c5. Note that if white was threatening e4 in this position, I don't think black could afford this type of luxury of playing queen c8. But in this position with white quite a way off from playing e4, queen c8 is not a bad move. So Ivkov plays rook d1, d5, c takes d5, and now we get our half-open centre with black recapturing with the bishop. I think capturing with the bishop is much better than taking with the pawn in this position. That's not the idea of queen c8 at all. I mean, bishop takes d5 is much more active. The queen can now come to b7. c5 is facilitated. All in all, this is not so bad. White comes in with knight e5. Black takes on g2. King takes g2. Queen b7. Check. And now white plays queen f3. So we've reached one of these half-open central positions, which actually is not that favourable for white. I think after the exchange on f3, black is perfectly okay. And the reason for this is that far from using this pawn as a bridgehead behind which he can build an attack, white's got to worry about the future of that pawn. Black can use that pawn to attack it to gain counterplay. And in this simplified situation, it's very hard for white to build up any sort of meaningful attack whatsoever. So not only is black equalised, because of the pawn formation, I slightly prefer his chances. Black's chances, that is. But of course, black's got to be aware that his own pawn at c7 could become vulnerable. I mean, white's got to move this bishop out and play rook a c1. So battle is joined. And that's why I think Korchnoi plays f6 here. He wants to take action against this plan of bishop f4 and then attack on c7 before it ever comes about. So that's why knight c6 is a good move. Again, keeping white on the hop. Knight f4, e5. A successful liquidation by black. And with the disappearance of the central pawn, all of white's chances to win the game go out of the window. And what we reach now is a kind of position where, with the pieces coming off, it looks as though this should be completely equal. But let's just see what happens in the ensuing play. Ivkov takes on d8. Korchnoi recaptures. White's bishop comes to e3. Black plays king f7. White goes a4. And black plays his king to e6. So let's just assess this endgame. Now, on the face of it, it looks completely equal. But there are some factors in the position which gives more hope to black than white. This position is a battle of respective majorities. We see that White's got a kingside pawn majority, central pawn majority there, and Black has a queenside pawn majority. Now, I think personally, it's easier for Black to mobilise his majority in this position than it is White. The second thing that might favour Black is that it's easy to get his king into the game. You could easily imagine Black's king wandering across the queen side in this position. It's not so easy for White to get his own king into the game because Black is in charge of the only open file. So the liquidation of that central pawn has actually favoured Black in this position. And whilst it's only plus equals against a technician like Korchnoi, your life can be made very difficult, as you're about to see. G4. Okay, that could be a sign that Ivkov is threatening to mobilise his majority. Black centralises his rook, very effective. White goes rook c1, and now Black deals with the threat by advancing his pawn, whereupon White tries to restrain the Black queenside majority by playing b3. Black improves the position of his bishop, White protects his pawn, and now just g6. King comes to e4, bishop comes to e5. I think the move g6 was to give Black the ability to play f5 as and when necessary. He may or may not play that move, but when it does come, it has the effect of nudging the White king out of the middle. Small things, but small things matter in the endgame. So White's got to tread water here. He can't do very much. This does, however, allow the Black rook into d1. White played rook c1. I don't know whether he thought this was going to be an easy draw with the bishop endgame coming up, but Korchnoi doesn't see it that way. He plays f5. Black recaptures on f5. White goes king f3. Black takes on c1, and now plays his king to d5. So the game has proceeded. It's going to be still a battle of majorities. I mean, all is going to hinge on who can create the most effective passed pawn. My impression is this position is going to be really difficult for White to defend. Black's king is better. He's got a nice easy plan of getting a passed pawn together, a6, b5 and then c4. Very easy to play. For White, White's got to somehow get e4 in. But even then, is his passed pawn going to be of any value? Note the Black pawn split here are very effective at restraining the White pawn structure as it stands. So all in all, I think Ivkov was probably surprised about how difficult this position was for him. He thought it might be an easy draw, but not so, as Korchnoi goes easily on with the idea of creating that passed pawn on the queen side. Well, if you're the defender in this type of position, you generally want to exchange pawns. The less pawns on the board, theoretically, it's supposed to ease your defence. So White takes on b5 with a clear conscience. Black marches on with his idea of creating that passed pawn, and en passant improves the position of his king. So now it's becoming really nasty. Black's got his passed pawn. And I'm not sure there's any effective way for White to stop it. What White's got to do is try and create some counterplay in the centre by getting his own passed pawn together. So that's why Ivkov plays e4, another exchange of pawns. And it doesn't seem likely that Black's going to win. Isn't material becoming drastically reduced? I mean, we note that this h-pawn is the wrong colour for the bishop. So surely there must be some hope for Ivkov in this position. Well, let's just see what happened. Bishop c3, very good, driving White's bishop away so that Black can play b4 next. Suddenly White sees it's going to be really tricky to stop this pawn. He's got to go bishop a3, and now bishop g7. Setting up two ideas. Number one, the king march into c2. Number two, the decoy move, bishop f8. White marches his own passed pawn. Black's timing is brilliant in this game. His king comes in right on time, and now comes this decoy move, bishop f8. And out of nowhere, Korchnoi has conjured a win, thanks to his brilliant endgame technique. Well, I mean, what is White going to do here? He played bishop takes f8, gambling on allowing Black to queen in the hope that he's going to be able to do something with his bishop and pawn. But a queen is a queen. And now Korchnoi closes in for the win, at the same time removing the h-pawn in the meantime. So let's just see how this finished off. This type of position, you know, I can just imagine a weaker player botching this in a game by getting rather nervous. But that bishop on f8 is on the wrong square. It remains for black to manoeuvre his queen into the best position. We're getting close to the best position. Queen c6 check, king e7, and now the excellent queen g6. That just shows how powerful the queen is. White can't move anything. King e8, and this gives black the valuable time he needs to bring his own king in. And that was it. So a wonderful game there by Korchnoi, and it was quite an interesting illustration of, at one stage, the half-open centre. It follows that when you have a half-open centre, when you've got the advanced pawn, you have to take energetic measures. You have to develop aggressively if you want to make anything of this type of position. As the game went, Ivkov played very, very quietly and got absolutely nothing. In fact, we recall that Korchnoi was able to use White's advanced central pawn to gain at least equality with a liquidating move, e5.